He was born as Sigismund Freud on May 6, 1856. Freud was born to a middle-class Jewish family. His professional life was not an immediate success. As a medical student, he dissected hundreds of ills in an unusual attempt to locate their reproductive organs. He promoted cocaine as a medical drug, but it turned out to be a dangerous and addictive idea. A few years later, he founded the psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is a set of theories and therapeutic techniques related to the study of the unconscious mind, which together form a method of treatment for mental health disorders. He proposed that we are all driven by the pleasure principle. Freud described a conflict between three parts of our minds: ID, ego, and superego. The ID is an important part of our personality because as newborns, it allows us to get our basic needs met. Freud believed that the ID is based on our pleasure principle. In other words, the ID wants whatever feels good at the time, with no consideration for the reality of the situation. The ego operates based on the reality principle, which works to satisfy the ID's desires in a manner that is realistic and socially appropriate. For example, if a person cuts you off in traffic, the ego prevents you from chasing down the car and physically attacking the offending driver. The ego allows us to see that this response would be socially unacceptable, but it also allows us to know that there are other more appropriate means of venting our frustration. The superego incorporates the values and morals of society, which are learned from one's parents and others. The superego's function is to control the ID's impulses, especially those which society forbids, such as sex and aggression. Freud proposed that psychological development in childhood takes place during 5 psychosexual stages: oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital.
The first stage of personality development is from birth to 1 year, which is the oral stage. The libido is focused in a baby's mouth, wherein the baby gets its satisfaction through its mouth. According to Freud, oral stimulation can lead to oral fixations, such as smokers, nail biters, thumb suckers, and oral aggressive personality.
Anal stage is the second stage in Sigmund Freud's psychosexual development, covering ages 1 to 3 years old. In this stage, the libido is now focused on the anus, wherein the child gets pleasure from bowel movements. Here, the child has their own right to decide and may learn to develop control that may lead to his or her satisfaction. According to Freud, he believed that this conflict will depend on how the parents will help on the child's potty training. They may either give free will that will make them productive, which may produce positive outcomes, or be strict and controlling, which may lead to a sense of discouragement.
Phallic stage, focused on genitals and masturbation, becomes a new source of pleasure. The child becomes aware of sex differences, which sets in motion the conflict between attraction, resentment, jealousy, and fear. In psychoanalytic theory, the Oedipus complex refers to the child's sexual desire for his mother. These are the signs of Oedipus complex. A boy who acts possessive of his mother and tells the father not to touch her. A child who insists on sleeping between parents. The Electra complex is a psychoanalytic term, refers to a girl's sense of competition with her mother because of sexual desire for her father. These are the signs of Electra complex. A girl who declares she wants to marry her father when she grows up. A child who hopes the parent of the opposite sex goes out of town so that they can take their place.
In the latency stage, there are no further psychosexual development that takes place during this stage. Freud thought that most sexual impulses are repressed during the latent stage, and sexual energy can be sublimated towards schoolwork, hobbies, and friendships. Much of child's energy is channeled into developing new skills and acquiring new knowledge, and play becomes largely confined to other children of the same gender.
Genital stage is the final stage of psychosexual development of Sigmund Freud. This stage begins to puberty to death. It is also considered as the longest stage in psychosexual development. In this stage, a person can start to develop interest with other people. It is also the stage where sexual urges are active. This is also the stage where pleasure is felt through the genitals.
Is Freudian psychology supported by evidence? Freud's theory is good at explaining, but not at predicting behavior, which is one of the goals of science. For this reason, Freud's theory is unfalsifiable. It can neither be proved true or refuted. For example, the libido is difficult to test and measure objectively. Overall, Freud's theory is highly unscientific. Freud may also have shown research bias in his interpretation. He may have only paid attention to information which supported his theories and ignored information and other explanations that did not fit them. Despite criticism, Freud still continued to work on refining his theory and in fact tried to explain how psychoanalysis can be a clinical method in treating some mental disorders. Soon enough, people were able to understand the concepts of psychoanalysis, which eventually resulted in classifying psychology as a science.